Welcome to What's the Scenario with PLRB, where we explore claims and coverage scenarios relevant to insurance professionals. I'm Brendan McLaughlin.
Hey, I'm Mike Broden.
I'm Tim Havler.
All right, Tim, what's the scenario?
Debbie homeowner was sleeping peacefully when, in the middle of the night, an intruder broke into her house in an attempted burglary. She dialed 911. Luckily, police were nearby and arrived at her house in less than 60 seconds.
Hey, wait a minute. Sounds like an inside job. Maybe it was the police that were doing this. How'd they get there so quick?
It was just fortunate timing.
All right.
There was a brief standoff between the police and the burglar. And then things escalated quickly. Shots got fired. There was a physical struggle, but in the end, the suspect was apprehended.
Yay.
So Debbie is now making a first-party insurance claim for the bullet holes in her house. Now, all the bullet holes were police fire. And even more importantly, Debbie's making a claim for cleanup of 150 gallons of heating oil spilled in the basement because one bullet hit the heating oil tank.
Oh.
Debbie had a ISO Standard Homeowners Form 2011 edition. Question, is there coverage for any of the damage? And when we do this one, we're going to divide it into two types of damage. There was the bullet holes, and then there was the heating oil spill. So we'll do those one at a time. But first.
Yes. What?
This is more of an educational insurance trivia question.
Excellent.
All right.
My favorite kind.
Whether it be inside, outside, or in the garage, heating oil tanks for homes, furnaces, and boilers are most commonly found in what region of the United States?
Ding, 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 ding. East Coast.
More specific, please.
New England area.
Acceptable.
Maine, Vermont. What do you want?
Yes.
I was going to say maybe not upstate New York because I have never seen this or heard of this really.
Really?
Not out by me.
Is that
so?
Maine and Vermont, you think, Mike?
We used to, growing up, my parents actually had fuel oil in Ohio, believe it or not. So, and the big old tank was in our basement. Yeah.
Interesting.
It was fun to hit on and make a lot of noise. Your parents, and that's why they went gas instead.
Let's get into the question because
wait a minute, Tim, was I right? Where are they?
Oh, yeah. Well, I was just going to say the Northeast, so I think New England was a pretty good answer.
Thank you.
Well, maybe I did have it in my house growing up, and I just didn't know what all those big machines were back there.
There you go.
Did you grow up in upstate New York?
Yeah, in Poughkeepsie.
No, did not know that.
But
new information about Brennan.
I have a baseline here. Is this flammable stuff? Like, is this a fire hazard and difficult to clean? And it sounds really bad.
Difficult to clean for sure.
Yep.
All right.
And that's why we're going to start with the pollutants exclusion, because when you think of difficult to clean or this contamination idea, your mind should go to the pollutants exclusion. Right. Pollutants, discharge, dispersal, seepage, migration, release, or escape of pollutants, unless the discharge, dispersal, seepage, migration, release, or escape is itself caused by a peril insured against under coverage C. Pollutants means any solid, liquid, gaseous, or thermal irritant or contaminant, including smoke, vapor, soot, fumes, acids, alkalis, chemicals, and waste, So heating oil is most likely going to be considered a pollutant, especially in a first-party policy. We see courts are more willing to interpret the pollutants exclusion broadly in first-party claims than they have been in third-party claims. This is the standard definition in this policy. It has that word contaminant, which I think is particularly relevant here. And there's lots of case law where a court held that heating oil was a pollutant. Has some scattered exceptions, but we're going to go with the majority rule here and get right by that issue into what I think is the more interesting issue, which is if we call it a pollutant, is there a coverage C peril that caused the release of the pollutant?
Tim?
I know where you're going with this one, Mike.
Where am
We'll
I
get
going?
there. It's going to be on our list.
Malicious mischief?
Interesting thought.
Uh-huh.
So just before we get there,
What are
when
the covered
pollutants
sea
are
perils,
released,
Tim?
what's that?
What are covered sea perils? Maybe we should...
Yeah, we're going to read through the list.
Okay, good.
But just the quick thing on proximate cause. When pollutants are released, it's almost always caused by something else. So it's nice that this policy tells us which of those something else is covered, as opposed to just leaving it up to us to try to say what's the proximate cause.
Gotcha.
So at least that's good. It narrows down our analysis. And now we're going to get to the list of covered sea perils.
Ooh, boy.
We're not going to start with vandalism or malicious mischief. We're
darn
going
it.
to go down all of them.
Okay.
And I'll read them off. And if someone thinks ding, ding, ding in my head, we want to talk about this one a little bit more, speak up or forever hold your peace.
Got it.
Peril number 1, fire or lightning.
No.
Peril number 2, windstorm or hail. Peril number 3, explosion.
Oh, maybe.
Oh,
Bullet exploded.
Oh, good point. Say a little bit more.
That's all I got.
So this
propels the bullet is an explosion.
Yeah, and that's a good point. This comes up a lot of times in, say, a suicide. If an insured commits suicide with a gunshot, some people would say that the bodily fluids, as unpleasant it is to think about, would be a contaminant. But then we get right back to the same question: was that an explosion that released the pollutant or contaminant? Historically, PLRB thought, no, that's too much of a stretch. But then in the 90s, there was one case from Pennsylvania, I believe. Only a trial level court, so it's not binding precedent, especially outside of Pennsylvania. But it did say that a gunshot could be considered an explosion for the name peril. And they looked at, I believe, the dictionary definition, which is maybe gases expanding very rapidly, which I guess when the gunpowder fires, that's happening. So a future court may be persuaded by that, but I don't think every court would agree with that one. I'm going to say this is probably a bit of a gray area.
All right.
So let's see if we can find a different coverage sea peril to shore up the argument.
Okay.
Number 4, riot or civil commotion.
Ooh. Was the burglar causing a civil commotion?
Brennan, you want to weigh in on that?
I feel like you'd have a stronger case if there was just a riot going on in the neighborhood and this was one of the rioters breaking in, doing some burglary. Maybe that's why the cops got there so fast. But without a whole bunch of stuff going on, I think there has to be more than one person for a riot. I don't know.
I agree with that. Yep. I think especially when you pair those, riot plus civil commotion, I think the interpretation of civil commotion should be narrowed to more in line with the riot as an overall phrase. We have couch on insurance. Civil commotion is essentially a domestic disturbance that occurs in a particular locale, which could encompass a county, country, or an area. So it does suggest more than just one person being involved. It's more of a group thing. So I don't think that one peril is particularly strong, Mike, but I do like the thinking here.
All right, appreciate it.
Number 5, aircraft.
Number
Number 6
was flying through the air. Wait a minute, Tim. I'm not giving up there yet. But, All right, I'll move on. I apologize.
Number 6, vehicles.
Yeah.
Number 7, smoke.
Ooh.
Unless smoke was the burglar's nickname, I don't think.
Number 8, vandalism or malicious mischief.
Yes.
Oh, we got to it.
But are the police responsible for vandalism or malicious mischief? No, they're doing their job. So, yeah, I guess I would fail on that one, right, Tim? All right.
Agreed. And that's why I made a point to say it was the police bullets and not
you're smart. Yeah.
It was the burglars' bullets. We might be saying something different there.
There you go.
Okay, number 9, theft.
No.
But then again, you've got that intervening, it's not really the theft caused it directly.
Oh, good point, Brian. I wasn't even going there. But yeah, you got a robbery, so that's kind of a theft. And it was theft of fuel oil because some leaked onto the robber's clothes, and as he walked out, there was some of my fuel oil gone now. Stole it.
And the theft peril does say this peril includes attempted theft.
Oh, all right.
So this becomes a whole issue. Does damage in the course of an attempted theft fall under the peril? And there's got to be a million cases on that. So another feather in the cap there. Number 10, falling objects.
Yes, bullets. They were falling.
They are subject to gravity on the way over to the tank. But this peril does not include loss of property contained in a building unless the roof or an outside wall of the building is first damaged by a falling object. So that one we'd have to throw out. Number 11, weight of ice, snow, or sleet.
Sure. Why not?
Number 12, accidental discharge or overflow of water or steam.
Oh.
No.
Nope.
Number 13, sudden and accidental tearing apart, cracking, burning, or bulging of a steam or hot water heating system.
Ah, so close.
Or an appliance for heating water. I think we need to look closer at that one. Yeah. It depends on the heating oil tank and how it was hooked up. Could we say it's part of a system for a hot water heating system?
Maybe.
Yeah,
maybe.
Connected to the water heater, Yeah.
Yeah. Number 14, freezing.
Probably not.
Number 15.
Oh, wait, that's what the police yelled to the burglar. Wait, Tim, I'm going back to freeze. Freeze before they shot at him. So that get us anywhere.
Mike, I'd like to see you as a plaintiff's attorney arguing some of these in court. Number 15, sudden and accidental damage from artificially generated electrical current. Nope. And then the hardest one. Finally, number 16, volcanic eruption.
Well, it's an eruption of a bullet.
Okay, so I have no definitive answer for you, but I'm guessing we could have found it in one of those perils we just talked about.
At least a solid argument that it might apply with a few of those, yes.
Right. I'm trying to more model the process here of going through the policy one by one and seeing if any are relevant.
But I do have to say, Tim, before you continue, one comment I wanted to make is I've been looking, I don't know how many podcasts we've done now, 50 some or something, always looking for malicious mischief, and you purposely made the bullet come from the police officer just so I couldn't have my day in the sun and finally have one where we're talking about malicious mischief. So I'm disappointed, but I understand, I guess, where you're coming from.
That is more accurate than you know.
Mike, you gotta if we're gonna do malicious mischief for the first time, it's gotta be something a little bit more clever than just shooting bullets.
All right.
It's gotta live up to the mischief name. Good
point.
Well, that's the heating oil. Now we have all this other bullet holes. And here we're going to go to the governmental action exclusion, which could potentially apply to the heating oil and the bullet holes, because it's for the destruction, confiscation, or seizure of property described in coverage A, B, or C by order of any governmental or public authority.
And they're not really seizing the property, confiscating, but the destruction part, maybe.
That's a good thought.
That's a tough one. I don't know, Tim.
I mean, is it in order when you pull a trigger?
That's another good thought.
It's a freeze, remember, which didn't count as peril under C, freezing. But
PLRB has gone with Brennan's line of thinking, which is to focus on that word order, because this was just an emergency situation. An order sounds something a little bit more formal, maybe a search warrant, maybe a specific seizure order, as opposed to a quick call on the radio, head over, and then things happen quickly. Now, if they had a search warrant, say for drugs, and they had to knock the door down, you could try to fit it in there. I've seen a couple courts go with that. But here, just with the emergency nature of the situation, I think we do not have a good argument for the governmental action exclusion.
Cool. That was fun.
I was also going to say, sometimes I feel like police officers, if they're accused of going outside of their warrant or their the scope of their duties. I wonder if that would get you, if it would otherwise apply, if there was some kind of claim like that, if that would get you out.
Yeah, good point. There's one or two cases on that, which you
Really?
can find on PLRB's annotation on this exclusion, where there was conduct beyond the scope of the warrant. And then I believe the court said that's no longer by order of governmental or public authority because it was beyond the scope of what the order permitted.
So are we good then? We got some coverage, and this exclusion seemed really applicable, but maybe not. So we might get coverage here for this.
Coverage for the bullet holes, maybe?
Yeah, I bet we're going to have to look closer at all those coverage C perils, but we identified so many that had some good potential. I bet we're going to be able to find one of them.
All right, because we always want to validate coverage for our insureds, right?
This insured's going to need a lot of help cleaning up a bunch of oil. Yeah, so I hope we can get them some help.
Right.
All right, Tim. So what can we take away from this scenario?
To recap, the heating oil spilled in the basement due to emergency police confrontation. A majority of courts around the country have held that heating oil is a pollutant under first-party coverage, but the adjuster should check to see whether there was a coverage C peril which caused the release of the pollutant, which of course would nullify the exclusion in the ISO homeowners. For the loss as a whole, we might also think about the governmental action exclusion, but that exclusion would more likely not apply in this case because there was no order by the government, no search warrant, no seizure order, only an emergency response. So, Mike, where can an adjuster go to learn more about all of those coverage C perils that we had fun with, as well as those exclusions?
Right. Plenty of awesome good stuff over at plrb.org. Coverage questions around governmental action and exclusions and civil authority wasn't applicable when they were apprehending a suspect, so that's a coverage question case out there to check out. And your annotations that you mentioned, Tim, that was always my go-to thing to look at. How does the policy define these things? And then you click on the link and it'll take you to the exclusion, how different courts have made a decision around coverage. Fascinating. Love our annotations. Great job by the legal team coming up with that stuff. Fabulous information. All at plrb.org. Brennan, you of course can share these awesome links and show people that haven't yet found the annotations and how much they love them. We can put them in the show notes and you can link them right there, right?
Absolutely. And there you'll also find a recap of the key points from this episode and links to our social media. Don't forget to subscribe and rate us, and please give us a call at 630-509-8704 and leave a voicemail to share your adjuster story.
Has anybody done that yet, Brennan?
Not just yet.
Not yet.
But we'll see you next time.
Yes.
The views and opinions expressed in this resource are those of the individual speaker and not necessarily those of the Property and Liability Resource Bureau, its membership, or any organization with which the presenter is employed or affiliated. The information, ideas, and opinions are presented as information only and not as legal advice or offers of representation. Individual policy language and state laws vary, and listeners should rely on guidance from their companies